The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
I thought Cam Ward had a very good debut for the Tennessee Titans, but despite that, the disrespect continues. That and more on today's edition of Locked On Titans. I can't give Cam Ward an A for a couple of different reasons. One, I thought the throw on third down on the first drive was incredibly irresponsible, didn't make a lot of sense, and going back and seeing it on tape made me dislike that play more than even when I saw it in real time. It was more risky and more unreasonable. When you go back and watch it, there's nobody. Cam Ward's, you think it's a throwaway. It looked like a throwaway on the broadcast tape, but really the ball lands in bounds next to two Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It just didn't make a ton of sense, and he missed Calvin Ridley on that play early. Brian Callahan said that. Everyone gets mad at me all the time for pointing this stuff out, but Brian Callahan said it himself that Cam Ward left the read a little too quick and missed Calvin Ridley open over the middle, so missing somebody who's open, leaving a clean pocket, making an irresponsible throw. That was by far Cam Ward's worst play of the day, in my opinion, even worse than the near interception, which was his other bad throw. But to me, that was a bad throw, and that was a learning experience. Cam Ward is going up against cover two, and you see the cornerback. The cornerback's supposed to sink into the flat in cover two, but the cornerback runs vertically with Alec Iomanor down the sideline on the vertical route, and the hole isn't there that Cam Ward's trying to fit it into. That is a learning situation of, hey, NFL corners are going to play a little more instinctively. They're going to play a little more intuitively. I can't necessarily force that stuff down the sideline. So those are two bad plays from Cam Ward that, for me, prevent from giving him an A. But everything else that he did out there was absolutely fantastic. We saw the arm strength, we saw the arm angles, we saw the velocity, we saw the wherewithal to come back from adversity when things don't look great on a 1st and 20, on a 3rd and 9, on a 3rd and 6 in the red zone. He gets it done in all those circumstances. Professional operation, ran the offense good. No pre-snap penalties, got everybody in the right spot. We saw Cam Ward audibling, adjusting protections, changing up things with the offense, communicating with his teammates. He looked like a professional quarterback out there. So that's why, even with two bad plays, is what I would call it, I gave Cam Ward a B+, a very, very solid, very good debut for Cam Ward. And here's the frustrating part, in my opinion. Even though Cam Ward went 5 for 8, 67 passing yards, led a 65-yard touchdown, did all of the good things that I talked about, even with the two bad plays mixed in there, you would have no idea that Cam Ward had a very good debut if you were just a casual NFL fan consuming NFL media. And I know a lot of you guys out there I don't care whether the media covers the team. And you know what? The reality is the media covering Cam Ward, how much they do it, whatever, that is not going to determine wins and losses and how successful Cam Ward is throughout his career. So does that stuff ultimately matter? But no, I can't help it. I've been a Tennessee Titans fan for 25 years, and I'm just tired of all of the best players that I've always liked. And even when the Titans have good teams, they just get disrespected. They never get the credit and the adulation that they deserve. And I'm tired of it. Look, I'm a fan of professional sports. None of this matters. Watching these grown men play a child's game for insane amounts of money while we pay $15 a beer and $500 a ticket, none of this matters. So don't give me the argument that this doesn't matter. None of it matters at the end of the day. I want Cam Ward to get the respect that he deserves. I want him to get the treatment that he deserves. I want him to be covered properly. I want the Titans to get their respect. I want the Titans brand to be elevated on a national level. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for caring about those things, whether they impact winning or not. And to see every ESPN video or every NFL Network segment or all of these national shows, oh, Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur deserves his shine. I'm not mad at him about this. He played solid in his debut too. But I saw an ESPN video come across my YouTube feed, and it had Shador, it had Travis Hunter, it had Jackson Dart in the headline, in the tagline, in the thumbnail, but no Cam Ward. And we just throw Cam Ward into the C block of the show at the very end for a minute to just say, oh, the Titans might have their guy. And I'm tired of hearing this is the least talked about number one pick of all time. Then talk more about him. You got real football games to watch now, where he's showing you the same things he showed you on tape. Talk about him. It's on you. Everybody acts like they're a victim. Oh, Cam Ward's the least talked about. Like there's not. Well, if all of you guys who were saying that he's the least talked about number one pick of all time talked about him more, he wouldn't be. So forgive me for going on a baby Rollins rant here about this, because again, I understand that the impact this has on the wins and losses is long-term minimal, but I'm not just a professional sports fan because I like to watch games on Sundays. I'm a sports fan because I love all of it. I love the entire ecosystem. I love the conversations, the debates, the arguments online, the stats, the all-time banter, the back and forth with, oh, I see a Jags fan at the golf course. Screw the Jags. Oh, forget your Titans. Blah, blah. All of that, the entire ecosystem of being a sports fan is just as important as the games themselves. That's why we do it. That's why we care, because it's so enjoyable. So forgive me if I'm annoyed that Cam Ward had a really good debut and he's getting pushed to the back page for all these other guys who, quite frankly, don't deserve as much shine as Cam Ward does. But it's not on the players. It's on the coverage. So with that in mind, shout out to Dart, shout out to Sanders. All had pretty good debuts out there, but Cam Ward did too, and he deserves to be discussed like the number one overall pick that he is. Breaking down more stuff coming out of the Titans preseason game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We talked about my grade for Cam Ward and why I gave him that grade, all the good and the bad. We talked about the disrespect that he continues to face, but now I want to talk about some things that Titans fans are panicking about coming out of the preseason game and tell you, well, I think it's fair to panic or whether it's not fair to panic. Also, I got a major injury update for you. I'm going to tell you how long Tyjae Spears is expected to be out, what's going on with Kevin Winston, and we should be getting Tavondre Sweat back soon, so I'll dive into all of that at the end of the show. Do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. So, everyone is freaking out about the backup quarterback situation. Brandon Allen was not very good out there. Tim Boyle was even worse. Okay, Tim Boyle had like a 0.7 passer rating in the game or something like that. They were both not very good. And Titans fans are watching the game and looking at that and saying, oh my God, we have a terrible backup situation. Titans need to go make a move. Titans need to go make a trade. Titans got to bring somebody in. We got to have a better backup situation than that. And I'm here to tell you, you shouldn't panic. Now, let me explain it this way. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't panic about the backup quarterback situation because the backup quarterbacks are actually going to be fine. No, they're bad. Brandon Allen is not a good backup quarterback. Tim Boyle is not a good backup quarterback. They're not good. I'm not telling you not to panic because I think they're actually good. I'm telling you not to panic because the plan is for them to not be good. I have explained this throughout the offseason. Like, if Cam Ward were to miss games, winning is not what's best for the Titans. It's not best to win games if Cam Ward gets injured, okay? What's best for Cam Ward is to have quarterbacks who are in the room with him who want to actively invest their time in making him better. The reason that Brandon Allen was signed as the Titans' backup quarterback is not because he's good. He's got less career passing yards than Will Levis. He's 2-8 in his 10 career starts. Brandon Allen is not good. But what Brandon Allen did do is he mentored Joe Burrow. He taught Brian Callahan's offense to Joe Burrow. He was the liaison in the room between Joe Burrow and Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor and the offensive decision makers in Cincinnati. Brandon Allen is a coach in the locker room. And right now, that quality is far more important than being good on the field. I will, again, bring up the Bengals situation. Joe Burrow gets hurt, tears his ACL his first season. The Bengals suck because they don't have a good backup quarterback. They get a top 5 overall pick, and they get Jamar Chase. Everybody, the next thing we're going to talk about, the next freak out, is about Femi Oladejo being a bust after 20 snaps in the preseason. He's a bust now. Everybody's freaking out. Well, if you're worried about Femi not being an answer at the edge, then you know that the Titans need to get a high-level number 1 alpha edge rusher, which I don't think that Femi Oladejo is, and I'm high on Femi, and I don't think that that's who he ultimately is going to be. So if the Titans need that, then wouldn't it be best for the Titans to get as best of a pick as they can in the draft so that they can address that alpha edge rusher position with a really, really good edge rusher draft class that's supposed to be coming up?
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first order.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast.
Preseason game number 1, it's in the books. And the Miami Dolphins have tied the Chicago Bears, yuck, hate ties, by a final score of 24-24. And I think the first chapter of this game showcased some familiar frustrations. There was the goal line stand on the opening possession. The Dolphins starters on offense, and you don't have Tyreek Hill and you don't have Jalen Waddle, but they have some explosives. You have a chunk play that's offset by a procedural issue because Larry Borum's not lined up on the line of scrimmage. It's a point of frustration. It's an easily adjustable thing, right? And it's the backup swing tackle. Austin Jackson's not in. So you don't go too crazy over it, but man, it's the kind of stuff that just drives you nuts because it's the kind of stuff that has been littered as easily avoidable issues in a lot of places throughout kind of the Dolphins' offensive chapters. And then they get down to the 1 yard line and they're knocking on the door. And look, I like the attitude. We're going to mash this ball in here, right? But the only problem with that is they didn't. And you had one play where there was a missed execution, what looked like Jonah Savaianaya down on the goal line. And then there was another run where Jalen Wright stops his feet and kind of kills his momentum. And then there's another one where looks like Patrick Paul blocks down and Pharaoh Brown's not on the same page and he blocks out, and it opens up this gap for this second level player on 4th down to come screaming through and make a tackle, and you lose yardage on 4th down. So it's kind of the short yardage woes popped up. So some familiar things that showed up for Miami throughout the course of this preseason matchup against the Bears. But I thought the way that they moved the ball was really promising. I think especially you consider the chemistry with Malik Washington. You get into some gotta-have-it situations, and Tua's looking for Malik Washington. The chemistry between those two as a second-year player, I think, is really important. We got some outbreaking patterns to help win to the sideline on throws. Those are the little things that I think you look for and you thirst for, just to add a few more tabs, if you will, to the play sheet for when you get into gotta-have-it situations. Now, it was a brief cameo appearance for Tua Tagovailoa. We had some of the touch pass stuff, the shallow air yards. He went 5 for 6 in this game. Zach Wilson comes in and gets an explosive play for Nick Westbrook-Ikine. Kind of felt bad for Zach on one hand because Zach had Jermaine Ifedi blocking for him at right tackle. And you need to be able to watch the full film to get the full list, if you will, of who did well, who didn't on a play-in and play-out basis. But the domino effect of Larry Borum now being the starting right tackle because Austin Jackson's on ice until the start of the regular season, and then Andrew Myers missing time and Liam Eichenberg's missing time. And it leads to Jermaine Ifedi, who just signed here, is getting early playing time. I thought Pat Paul looked pretty sturdy, but then the drop off when Keon Smith now has to play guard and would ideally be a tackle, and Larry Borum's up with the ones because Austin's now playing, the trickle-down effect, a lot of those concerns that you had throughout camp with the daily practice reports from those that were in attendance about, hey, this offensive line's not looking super sturdy. I think your backups are kind of dispersed right now across the depth chart, and maybe some of them aren't playing in their ideal spot. And you saw this where Jermaine Ifedi's got to come in and conceding a lot of pressure. So Zach finishes 5 of 996. He gets the explosive play to Nick Westbrook-Akine on the catch and run down the field, but he sacked 4 times, and it looked like there was not a lot of consistent width of the pocket. And both of these backup quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers, they both look to get off of their spot, but their feel of throws as they're uncovering while getting off your spot and trying to throw with accuracy. You saw it a ton with Ewers, right? Like, he didn't necessarily panic in the face of pressure, but he was looking and eager at times to get off his spot and look to move. And you're just not on the same page, and it's not synced up. And I think that contrast in style of play kind of bit the Dolphins, especially as you get deeper into the wide receiver depth chart and you already didn't have your top 2 guys in this game. But Devon Achane ran strong in this game, I thought. We're going to get into Taj Washington. I thought the entire first team defense, obviously I think Chicago had 8 yards of offense in the first half through 2 possessions. Caleb Williams didn't start. The Bears didn't play a lot of their starters. That's what you would want it to look like. So I think from that standpoint, you acknowledge that Jalen Phillips doesn't dress, but everybody else is kind of rocking and rolling. And it looks the way that it needs to look for your expectation of who Chicago played and who you played to go out there and feel good about, hey, we executed. And then from an injury standpoint, the guys that are higher up on the depth chart on the defensive side of the ball, Elijah Campbell looked like he kind of grabbed above the knee. But that's one where he's in there running for that third safety spot, which makes obviously Ife Melifanu returning off of the PUP that much more, or the non-football injury list, that much more important for you. But by and large, it looks like you avoided some of the chaotic opportunities that can come when you get in these preseason games and you have guys that go down. So Dolphin starters getting some run on both sides. Some guys like Jonah Savaiinaea played over 30 snaps in this game. And I think for a guy like that, as a second-round rookie, those are healthy opportunities.
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endlessly scrolling, trying to find the best deals? Gametime Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section for you. And with Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed.
There was major movement in the quarterback battle on Sunday.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In the first preseason game, Trey Lance showed us the ability to have some touch and to be able to impact the game with his arm. In this game against the Saints, he showed us that he can also impact the game on the ground with his feet, making him very, very much an attractive option to potentially back up Justin Herbert. And on defense, Caleb Murphy was at it again. He is just solidifying his case, and I think he probably locked up a roster spot with another fantastic performance in this one. And speaking of undrafted free agents who showed out, my goodness, Eric Rodgers with 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. If you want to make a statement, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and we finally got to see the rocket blast off, Rocket Sanders getting some run in this game. And I thought really kind of saved his day, or, put an exclamation point behind his performance with a late touchdown where he showed you a little bit of why this coaching staff is so excited about him. He definitely has some physical tools to be excited about, I would say, for sure. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. David, there's a lot of moving and shaking after most preseason games, but I think one of the bigger position battles on this team is at the backup quarterback position, and we didn't necessarily think so, right? We, didn't see the Trey Lance signing coming when it happened, and ever since then, I think he's basically done everything he can to show that he should be the backup quarterback on this team. But the biggest difference between this week and last week is we got to see Taylor Heinicke this week. He's the one that went out with the starting offense. He got a few drives, couldn't get anything going, and it was Trey Lance that ended up being the better of the quarterback, had the offense moving most consistently on the day, which is just driving Brandon Staley crazy, of course. And also, just like you said, it was the ability to run. I mean, you look at his passing numbers, it's not going to be anything that woos you. 7 of 14, 55 yards, a passer rating of 60.1. Even with that, he still had major movement in this quarterback battle because when he needed it, he could rely on his legs that picked up several first downs and a touchdown.
Sure did. 7 carries for 48 yards and a rushing touchdown for Trey Lance. And yeah, he showed that ability, that twitch, right? And he was decisive with it when he knew things were breaking down around him and he feel like, hey, I'd just get out of here and go make a play. He was able to do that. He showed the speed, the decisiveness to be able to hit the outside and be able to get forward and get some major yards. A couple of big runs towards the back end set up that touchdown run, which was pretty much a design QB run where he basically was able to walk into the end zone practically untouched. I mean, just a fantastic performance again for Trey Lance, where he didn't probably have his best performance through the air. He was okay. I thought he was fine, but he was still able to impact the game, still able to move the football field, still able, move the football down the football field, move the chains, be able to, keep the offense on the field and score points. He punctuated it with a touchdown. So I thought it was a strong performance for Trey Lance, who is continuously making that case to be the backup for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, it feels like he is it right now and created some real separation in that battle because of the performance of Taylor Heinicke as well. That has to kind of factor into it. But I love the point that you made there just about, what happens when you don't have it? What are you going to do when the receivers aren't getting open? And what are you going to do if, the passes are a little bit off or you have a couple of drops? A lot of times that just ends in 3 and outs and you just don't really get anything going. But with Trey Lance, several times on big third downs, when things broke down, when nobody was open, he used his legs and picked up key and crucial first downs. And we've talked about it before, that we believe that Greg Roman wants a dual threat quarterback as his backup, like he had in Baltimore with Tyler Huntley, where he's able to kind of keep the ship afloat with Lamar Jackson out. You get that with Trey Lance. And after really a kind of whatever rushing performance, he didn't really run at all in the first game, which was kind of, you felt like he had to. Showed he could do it with the arm, like you said. And this week he showed you, hey, I can, when things aren't great, make it work with my legs and then, impact the game that way. But do have to talk about Taylor Heinicke. We knew he was going to get the start in this one. They kind of sent a weird message by not playing him last week. It was kind of like, where do you feel like he is in this? Is he so kind of ahead in the quarterback situation that you don't feel like you need to see him in that first game? Well, he got his chance to kind of make his first statement of the offseason to be the backup quarterback, David, and it didn't go up.
I mean, he made a statement, just not the type of statement that he wanted to make.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
1 of 5, only completing 1 pass for 8 yards, and he just wasn't very accurate. I think one of the things that really stood out to me is he missed a wide open Tyler Conklin. That would have been a big play. I mean, probably at least 20 yards down the football field, and he just didn't look comfortable. He was inaccurate. And, it was not a very strong performance for Taylor Heinicke. He got a couple of drives, just didn't seem like he was able to move the offense down the field, and that's not good. And obviously this is a guy who has a ton of experience, in the past, but I don't think this is a guy that should be held out of preseason games, especially after that performance. Like, he's going to have to come back and really show that, hey, this was the anomaly here. This was the blip on the radar This is not the
The
status,
outlier, sure.
this is not how it's going to be going forward. He has to definitely erase this one with the spectacular performance, because he can see right now that his job is definitely slipping away.
Well, and especially as all these other guys stand out, and I'm not even talking about just at the quarterback position, but so many guys making such
his
good
roster
cases
spot
for the roster.
Yeah.
It feels very real. The Chargers could just keep 2 quarterbacks in this season. It feels like it only makes sense to keep 2 quarterbacks. I go as far as saying, and right now Trey Lance seems to be that guy, and it feels like this battle is done unless a total implosion from Trey Lance, which we've seen him do in the preseason with a 6 turnover game against the Chargers last year.
Thankfully, Tony's on the other side now.
Right, yeah. Tony, again, awesome today, of course. Preseason All-Pro for sure. But, yeah, I mean, missed Tyler Conklin, and just, several passages weren't on the money.
Yeah.
Just didn't see guys that were open. Not a good game for Taylor Heineke. He'll have to be really good the next couple of weeks just to give himself a chance at this point.
Yeah.
It feels like it's crazy how far things have swung in the other direction there. But have to also shout out offensively Dale Von Campbell, who has a big game. Finally saw it translate into game action, because this is a guy we've been given notes from for most of camp so far, right? A guy making big plays, a guy we've told you has been mixed in with the first team offense at wide receiver, especially when they were dealing with some injuries. A big, fast outside receiver who Jim Harbaugh said caught the most go balls so far in training camp, and that's what the big play was today. He leads the team, 3 catches, 63 yards, also tacks on a contested catch in the end zone for a 2-point conversion. Man, so cool. These are the great stories you look for every year, and Dale Von Campbell finally put his name on the map with a big game performance.
Yep, and it was punctuated with that big 51-yard reception from DJ Uiagalelei. So that
Great
was
ball
really
tracking too.
Really fantastic, really fun, really exciting. And for Delvon Campbell, whenever you're looking at guys to bring in from your undrafted free agency, right, you're looking at guys that have unbelievable traits, right? Something that you think you can take and you can mold and you can utilize, right? And just see what they can do with some training, with some coaching. Delvon Campbell, 6'4", 220 plus with, great speed. All he's been doing throughout training camp is making those type of plays, using that size that, God has given him to really be able to out jump people, to be able to go up and get the football and impose his will. And if he keeps doing that, man, he's going to be able to at least put himself on the radar for a practice squad spot. I just think, man, this Chargers wide receiver room is just unbelievably hard to be able to crack with the way things have set up so far. But, hey, keep making plays and anything can happen.
Yeah, he's playing for a job, whether it's with the Chargers or someone else. But I'd say he's the prime wide receiver to get that training camp spot, at least, or that practice squad spot right now. I mean, look at him and Brendan Rice, right? Both had deep balls they had to track down the field, and both had opportunities to make a big play. And Dale Von Campbell's the one that came up with it, right? But also had, more than half of the team receiving yards in this game because of that big 51-yarder. And DJ Uiagalelei is has thrown 3 passes, but it's been perfect so far in his very short preseason career. But
I'll
way,
take it.